Okay, so I just saw the newest episode of Deadliest Warrior. Genghis, or they pronounce it Genghis Khan, so I don't know. But Genghis Khan versus Hannibal. And before I start, I'm gonna address a few things because I noticed this when I was watching the episode. So one thing I noticed is Hannibal is portrayed by a white guy, and I really don't claim to be an expert on this, but Hannibal's from North Africa, so I was expecting him to be played by either a black guy or someone who looks Middle Eastern-ish. Like I don't really know what he looks like, but I kind of doubt he was like a white guy. Like I don't know. I really don't claim to be right. I'm probably wrong, but I'm just saying I don't think he's white. Like I don't know, someone historian, please like help me. And another thing I noticed in this episode is on Genghis Khan's side, they don't refer to him as Temujin, which was his real name, which is bizarre in an episode that focused on Genghis Khan. I don't know. It's like for a show that like it romanticizes about the warriors they have, it it kind of left out that one bit. Like I was kind of waiting for them to say like he used to be called to. He started out in a village by the name of Temujin and eventually earned the name Genghis Khan or Great Khan. I don't know, but anyways. So yeah, those were the two small details that I know that bothered me in this episode. Now, back to Genghis Khan. So this episode had Genghis Khan versus Hannibal, like obvious, but some things to notice. One, this is the biggest thing that I noticed. Both warriors are separated by 1,400 years. Like, I didn't even know that. I'm not the greatest ancient historian, but when I saw those numbers, it was like I actually thought it was kind of over, like right there, because of how far apart they were. But it kind of didn't really affect them. Like it did affect it, but affect the result, but it didn't like totally affect it. Like it wasn't, the numbers weren't like far apart. So another thing, the episode had probably one of the weirdest comparisons. Like they brought back special weapons, which kind of irritated me because they were doing such a good job with keeping special weapons out. Because special weapons is always the category where people have a problem with, because if they come to a decision with short, medium, long, it kind of makes sense because the decision they come up with is the one that's better at the range that they're trying to get it at. Special weapons, it's like you can argue one weapon's advantage over the other, but you're never gonna totally convince people of the special weapon's advantage over the other. And this was bothersome in this episode because they compared the recurve bow to the war elephant. There's so many things that's so wrong about this. Like they eventually gave the edge to the elephant just because it's an elephant. But for one, the elephant it's used to crush groups of people. Like it's a giant elephant, so it's gonna ram into groups of people and crush them. And whereas a bow and arrow, like it has multi-purposes. You can aim it at someone, or if you have a group of people, you can aim up in the sky and then rain arrows down on like a group of your enemies. So you cannot totally convince people that an elephant can be better than the arrow, or the arrow can be better than the elephant. I mean, it's possible. There's always going to be counters. Okay, I'm gonna go forward. So the episode, so the episode itself, without taking any more like small detail notes I did, the episode itself, it was actually good. I mean, like, it's I liked it. I liked it a little bit better than Joan of Arc and George Washington, but I think I'd still like the North Korean Spec Ops episode better. And this is mainly because in this episode, in this episode, it still has that they're still not straying away from like the show's like new style, where instead of they do like random tests with like the weapons, they're actually giving like a lot fairer tests. So um you know, some of the results are still skewered. Like the long range tests, you know, it's always like there's always going to be skewered tests. Like the long range and the special weapons tests, they were skewered. But there was actually two tests in this episode where you can actually have a lot of people believe in the result. Like the armor test. Um, it was a pretty simple, but it was a pretty good test. Like all they did was they had one team's sword go up against the other team's armor, and then they decide which ones held up better. I mean, like, it's a simple test and it works. Um, some other minor notes that I took while they're doing the test. I'll get to the simulation later. Let me see. The long range test I mentioned was Skiritus because like it was the Jita Lance against the Solifair. I can't really pronounce it. Um, they gave the advantage to the Solifarium, whatever. The throwing lance, and you know, this was a weird comparison. I mean, like, it's kind of like the comparison they did with Persian Immortal versus Celt, where it was like they compared one spear which was thrown against the other spear which was on a chariot and was used to hit and stick. But in this test, it's a lot fairer because they tested on the same target, but it's still kind of a weird. It was still a weird result. Like they gave the edge to the Solifarum because the Carthaginian expert said there was like Hannibal used to carry like more than one, so they said since you had more than one, you can throw a lot more. So just because you have more shots, it gives you the edge, which you can see the logic. But the other guy, he didn't throw his lance. I mean, the Mongolian expert didn't throw his lance. Used he used it to stick it into the enemy and then leave it. So like a better test for this would have been like they should have just tested like both weapons as a stabbing weapon or as a throwing weapon, and instead of just like saying, oh, you have more ammo, so you have the edge. Like I don't know. That's just how I feel. As for the other test, let's see. They compare the battle strategies, which this one I kind of disagreed on, mainly because the strategy, the strategies that they compared. I can see why Mack gave his edge to Genghis Khan because it's like 9 days. You're dragging your enemy to you for 9 days. 9 days. That's a feat. But then again, Hannibal did pull off one of the hardest battle strategies in history, the pincer movement or double envelopment. Okay, and the reason why it's legendary is because like it's a very hard movement to do. Like even Sun Tzu, like I read somewhere that Sun Tzu said that this move was questionable. Like he advised against using it. So I don't know. When it comes to battle strategies, you can either argue either way. So I guess Mack has his way of thinking, and I have my way of thinking. So I'm not gonna blame Mack for choosing Genghis Khan's one. So, anyways, anything else? Anything else? There's nothing else to really comment on this episode except maybe there was one really stupid part I remember. The very beginning, Dr. Dorian, he's talking, he's doing this thing where he's doing the tail of the tape. And I thought when he did the tail of the tape of the North Korean versus Ranger one was pretty stupid because when he did the tail of the tape for that one, he actually said, "Oh, the North Korean Spec Ops, they're 5'3", and Rangers are 5'6", and it was like every Ranger's 5'6", or every North Korean Spec Ops soldier is 5'3". Are you kidding? Like, I thought that was the stupidest one. This one was pretty stupider.
For the tale of the okay, this is not maybe not as stupid as the North Korean one, but the tale of the tape he said for here is Genghis Khan had a high protein diet, and Hannibal had was pretty fit. So he said if this fight were to go on for rounds, Genghis Khan might actually gas out, which that doesn't make sense to me since this isn't like a fight that has rounds in it. It's just straight up fighting. So you know, I'm just gonna try to go forward because Dr. Doran's tale tapes they're not very helpful because it's kind of hard to. I mean, you can predict how they would be in a fight based on their health, but you can't like treat it like a UFC event. I mean, I know he's a UFC doctor and all, but it's kind of silly when he tries to make it look like a UFC fight. But okay, moving forward. So the last thing to really comment on is the simulation, and this is probably the best simulation that I've seen so far. And I like how they're still doing the 5-on-5 because they're generals and they lead armies. I really wish they would do a redo with the past episodes with the generals, but I don't think they would. But anyways, this is actually a good simulation. It was pretty intense, and I like I like how the elephant I like how they just have like the elephant there and have it charged, but then like the Mongolian dudes, they shoot a bunch of arrows at it and eventually just walks away. Like it didn't really like charge or anything or do anything epic. It sort of just ran into them. And let's see. Not much to really talk about in the simulation. I mean, like it's better shot than the last ones. I mean, it's the camera's a little bit farther out, not like in George Washington where the camera was like too close to them, and it's the lighting's a bit better. It's better than the Army Rangers ones, so it's a good simulation. I mean, like nothing too memorable, but it's a lot better than the last three. So that's all I have to say about the simulation. And do I agree with Genghis Khan winning? Yeah, I kind of do. I mean, like, it's kind of obvious because he has a 1400 year advantage, and yeah, he has a 1400 year advantage. I mean, I don't want to say game over, but it's like and it's like there's the trend on the show where any warrior who has like years of years of technological advantage to their enemy, they're usually bound to win. So, not really surprised Genghis Khan won. So, that's my thoughts on this episode.